A council insider siphoning off a massive £220,000 of public money for their own gain is a shocking betrayal of the community they're meant to serve. But when that person has been a colleague or even a friend, the betrayal is not only public, it's intensely personal.
It is unbelievable. This is just using the public money as a private bank account without any care, without any consideration and without any thought.
This money-hungry Clerk splashed the stolen cash on extravagant holidays, expensive equipment for her horses, and showered herself and her family with luxuries worth tens of thousands of pounds. Rugeley in Staffordshire is a small market town. It has a population of nearly 25,000 people and a town council that oversees public services that are important to its residents.
We deal with the very small things that matter to local communities. Play areas, it could be allotments, it could be public events. Hello, Rugeley Town Council, can I help you?
Hilary Goodread joined the town council as the town clerk in 2017.
Starting a new job here was exciting. I was brought in to do a specific job of sorting out the governance and the accountability for the council. And it was exciting times. I relished the challenge and everybody seemed really friendly.
Working directly below Hilary is her new colleague, Rebecca Mason, who has worked as the assistant town clerk for several years.
Rebecca had been an employee here since 2008. She'd been the constant over quite a few years and was trusted, completely and utterly trusted.
Rebecca holds a position of responsibility, and one of her main duties is to administer the town council's finances.
She was very knowledgeable about her job. You had confidence in her. She was there to advise, she was there to report back to the finance committee. She had those responsibilities to the council, to the councillors, and most importantly, to the members of public.
Hilary and Rebecca quickly form a close friendship.
When I started, Rebecca made me feel incredibly welcome because I was only coming in for a few hours each week. The councillors had agreed that I could bring my dog in with me. And Becky absolutely loved having my dog in the office, always very kind and good to him. She was just very nice, very human, very personable.
And as their friendship blossoms, Hilary learns that Rebecca has an all-consuming and costly private passion.
She certainly had 2 horses, possibly 3 or 4. She'd stabled them and they were in full livery. So she would go and see them first thing in the morning, and then she'd come to work, and then she'd go back in the evenings and take her daughter riding. At weekends, her whole social life revolved around the horsey world in Staffordshire, really.
As the months go by, Hilary gets to know her colleagues' routine, and something that catches her eye are the numerous packages that appear to be delivered every day for Rebecca.
Packages would arrive and she would quite happily say, oh, this is another horse blanket for this one horse. Or there'd be clothes that would arrive and she'd say, yeah, this is for my daughter for riding. And every day there'd be boxes. So I did on one day ask her and say, what is it with all of this? You know, how on earth can you afford all the horses? I mean, I knew what she got paid, so I was just a bit bemused that the spending of her didn't really match what I knew would be the income into the family.
Hilary's gut is telling her that something isn't right. But Rebecca has a bulletproof explanation.
Her response was that her father had left and he was a barrister in Barcelona in Spain and he had guilt issues. So he would be paying for the horses and for everything that supplied the horses.
Hilary gives her colleague the benefit of the doubt.
I didn't know Rebecca that well and took it at face value that that must indeed be what was happening.
But horses aren't the only thing Mason splurges on. Despite her modest salary, the assistant town clerk appears to fancy herself part of the jet set.
Her favourite place to go would be Turkey, so she would go off and take her mother and her daughter. Nothing unusual in that, though in 2018 she went on holiday and she was booked into a hotel and then announced partway through the holiday she didn't like the hotel that they were staying in, so they were going to move to a better hotel further down the road. Which I thought, well, that would have cost quite a bit of money because she'd already got the one hotel booked.
Hilary can't put her finger on it, but something smells fishy.
How she afforded it did cross my mind. The number of parcels never stopped. But though I thought, OK, well, if the dad's paying for all the horses, then that leaves all of Rebecca's salary to pay for everything else.
Later, Hilary turns sleuth. In Rugeley, Staffordshire, Town Council Clerk Hilary Goodread has growing concerns about her assistant. Rebecca Mason has worked for the council for over a decade.
She'd been the constant over quite a few years and was trusted, completely and utterly trusted.
But Hilary believes Rebecca to be living far beyond her means.
So I did, on one day, ask her and say, what is it with all of this? You know, how on earth can you afford all the horses?
Hilary's sneaking suspicions are about to escalate even further.
Fairly early on in 2018, she was due to have gone to a training session, and I was due to go to the same training session a few days later. And when I arrived for my session, the trainer said, oh, it's a shame your assistant town clerk didn't come to the training session on Tuesday. And I said, what do you mean she didn't come? She came back and told me what a great course it had been. So I picked up the phone to Becky, and she said down the phone, she said, I was there. They must be mistaken. And I did say to her then, don't lie to me. You know, I thought we were friends. I thought we had a better relationship than that. And she said, I'm not lying to you. I did go to the training session, but she was lying. The training session was a little village hall in the middle of nowhere with only about 20 people turn up. It wasn't a massive event where she would be lost in the crowds. And that's when alarm bells started to ring for me.
As their friendship sours, Hilary's misgivings grow. Her colleagues' spending is out of control.
As the year went on, things just really didn't sit right. So she came in one weekend very proud of the fact that she'd bought a horse box. She posted on Facebook pictures of a massive horse box that could fit, I don't know, 3, 4 horses, that had a kitchen in it, had sleeping arrangements in it. And you couldn't help but think, where was the money coming from for this?
But then out of the blue, Rebecca takes a leave of absence, and Hilary is left to take on her assistant clerk's day-to-day responsibilities.
I had to take over her job as well as my own job and do all the financial arrangements for the council.
Rebecca had always been responsible for overseeing the town council's finances. But with her assistant away, Hilary takes on the job and almost straight away notices something amiss.
It was clear that there were serious discrepancies in the payments being taken out of our bank account. There were a number of payments going out to mainly 2 organisations, which we genuinely pay, but we always pay them by cheque. And what I noticed was that there were a number of payments going out to these 2 organisations with different names written next to them. So it would be ADT, who we pay for our alarms and security, not a problem at all. But then it would be ADT Electrical or ADT Gas. In the first instance, you think, oh, there's been a genuine mistake. I will ring up the 2 organisations and I will get copies of all the invoices.
The companies send in their legitimate invoices, but there's no paperwork to match these suspect payments.
We then look at, well, what bank account is it going into? Is somebody hacking into our bank account from outside of the town council? Because it couldn't possibly be happening from inside the town council, we thought. So we look at the sort code and we look at the account number and we see that it's all the same account.
Someone, somewhere, is using this mystery account to bleed the council dry.
I went off to our bank and our bank said the onus was on us to prove that we weren't genuinely authorising those payments. So I then spoke to the police and it was the police that were able to access the bank records and find out who all this money was being paid into. And the owner of that bank account was Rebecca Mason. I will never, ever forget that day that we found that out. And the phone call came in from the police and they said, yeah, it is all Rebecca Mason. I just felt sick to my stomach.
Out of sheer greed, Rebecca has pocketed the public's money. But just how much she's pinched is still unclear.
We had to trawl through a lot of paper information that was on Becca's desk. So all the past accounts, the annual returns that we send in to the external auditor all needed to be reviewed, see where she had made false records, and all of that took time. It took probably about 9 months.
Hillary's continued detective work uncovers just how shameless this brass-necked official's behaviour has been.
Going through the transactions that we found when she was taking the money out of the account, and from the works diaries, you can see whether or not she was off sick on that day, if she was at a public function that day, what she was doing. So, for instance, I know for a fact that on the day she took out £9,765 in one transaction, she was actually sitting on a beach in Turkey, Facebooking and, you know, saying what a lovely time she was having on the beach, and yet she'd taken out the best part of £10,000. How she spent the money, the investigator identified that it was £17,000 on cars and travel, £20,000 on clothes, £20,000 on dining out, £133,000 on household items. It is unbelievable. This is just using the public money as a private bank account without any care, without any consideration, and without any thought.
Mason has helped herself to an eye-watering £220,000 of public funds.
I just sick to my stomach, absolutely sick to my stomach that anybody could do that, not only to me, but to the council, to the members of the public that pay their council tax.
As a direct result of this callous clerk, the council has had to shelve vital regeneration projects intended to improve the lives of local people, including plans to rebuild 2 children's playgrounds and restore the town's much-loved theatre. In May 2019, Rebecca pleads guilty to the fraud, and a month later, she's sentenced at Stafford Crown Court to 4 years in prison.
Whether she had remorse or not, I have no idea. She'd shown no remorse as she sat next to me in the office taking £20,000 out for a horse box. She showed no remorse as she stood next to the local MP and switching on the Christmas lights, having just taken out just under £1,000. I can only assume that the tears that were in her eyes were more as for what she was losing rather than remorse for the actions that she had done.